Thank you, Jarrett. Welcome back to the casting booth. We have the final match of the EPS series before we begin the IEM semifinals and then finals this afternoon. And I'm pretty excited the fact that we get to see GoOdy go up against Daisy, teammates in this matchup. And I do believe they practiced together quite a bit.
Yeah, I would consider these two to. Yeah, I mean, obviously they are two of the most formidable players on ESC Icebox. Daisy, though, having come over from Korea, he was previously in OGS, or was it Daisy Prime, wasn't it?
Daisy Prime.
Yeah. But he came over to be able to join ESC here and has been pretty darn formidable in the German scene.
Yeah. I mean, Daisy does, though, kind of have these weird instabilities to his play where he'll do these way bold moves that you don't see a lot. Sometimes they'll work really nicely, and other times they'll just fall apart miserably, like double forage rushes against Zerg, or going for weird Phoenix plays against Terran. It's cool to watch, but most significantly against GoOdy, you'll need that refinement, because GoOdy, even though he's known for mech, has been doing Marine Marauder pretty much non-stop for the last several months. Been doing it as standard, as stably, as predictably, but as strong as possible. And Daisy's going to have to run headlong into that.
Yeah, you know mech has had its day when GoOdy stands up and says, okay, I need to learn bio for TVP. I think that would be a useful thing to have. As he's chuckling. I'm not. Oh, okay. All right. Oh, bless him. But he's such a nice guy. He's such a
he
a nice
really
guy.
is one of the sweetest people you'll ever meet. He is also a big practice player. He is just plays so many games. He was originally known for that mech play, which I like quite a bit because without anyone else to really mimic, he had to figure that out on his own.
Yeah, and I still loved his incorporation of tanks into PvT anyway. But anyway, coming to Daisy here now. Daisy is a rather handsome chap, to say the least. He was the first person to actually qualify for the TSL 4, I believe.
Yeah.
So, but then after that, we haven't seen too much of him elsewhere. So there is that kind of sporadicness in his ability to actually perform, despite being very, very formidable.
First map will be on Daybreak, so this is very much the passive, take your time, get your Ghost Viking tech up, get your 3-3, and we'll see who can win it in a bunch of big direct engagements. So it looks like both players are ready. I'm very excited because I love PvT on this map.
I do as well. It's so good. There's so much that can occur. Again, Daybreak, for me, the really defining map for metagames in almost every single matchup.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So
there's been the good luck, the have fun, the good game, and all we're doing is waiting for the host to go. And I like the fact that you bring up the meta game on Daybreak. It really is where the standard sort of grew from.
Yeah.
Players who play very calm standard games will be choosing this map if they're losing in a best of X. We see crazier builds go on Entombed Valley, on Ohana, but this map, the distances are so far.
Yeah, and I mean, for the new breed of maps, I'm going to call them, this was really the first map to come along from that new breed.
Yeah.
Daybreak being introduced over at GSL and then working its way into ladder and then working its way subsequently into every single tournament ever.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't hate the map. The only thing that I think is significant to note is that in the center, there's those inner expansions. Sometimes are high on minerals, sometimes are low, depends on the league. In IEM, I know it's a full mineral set of 8. On this map is as well. So let's go ahead and hop into it.
Shall do indeed as we load up onto Daybreak. Once again, guys, spawning up to the top right-hand corner here as our Red Protoss. Give it up for ESC Daisy.
For one of the sweetest men in esports and one of the pioneers of the mech play, give a cheer for ESC's GoOdy.
Now again, there's always that method that Terrans do end up using of working siege tanks into their play against Protoss nowadays. It's something that MTW Supernova specifically is a huge fan of on maps like Cloud Kingdom, for example. You see, we saw through, for example, the Intel Extreme Masters qualifiers, all the way through that Supernova was always using tank play in his style, going up against Protoss. And GoOdy has been an advocate of that in the past as well. I'm not 100% sure it works as well on Daybreak as it would on, say, like Cloud Kingdom, for example.
Yeah, it's quite hard to pull it off. There's just, you don't have enough space control on the map. What Protosses will generally do is play passively on 3 bases, not really attack, and then start leaping into action by getting Warp Prism Harass up, starting these slow pushes after hitting max and after banking up 3K minerals so they can do those aggressive re-warp-ins. For the most part, it's a little bit too difficult to engage Terrans these days as their control's just so crisp.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, Daisy really what really defines him is his timing pushes right now in StarCraft 2. I mean, yes, he can go into those big macro games, but his timing pushes, not only in this matchup, but also in PvZ, have been absolutely phenomenal in the past. So we'll have to see what he's going to opt for here. But again, it being Daybreak, there's always that massive, massive potential for that big macro game. And when you're going up against GoOdy, even if he is still playing Bio, he does play that relatively defensive style with drops here and there, but he's nowhere near as aggressive as, say, someone like a Bomber or a Supernova.
Yeah, GoOdy does the kind of typical by-the-book aggression. Bomber goes just nuts, man. I would never want to play TVP versus Bomber, but I do think, though, that the way that Bombers and the Tages of today play are not stylistic. They're the new style of TVP that people are really going to start picking up in the next few months. The big key to what we're seeing Terrans do nowadays is that they're... Ooh, an interesting maneuver from GoOdy. I'd honestly expect him to take his gas around 21 now because he is known for doing that fast Banshee play.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm sort of expecting GoOdy here to actually go really kind of full hog with this aggression. Again, you know, it's when we were talking about the aggression earlier, it was more the fact that he doesn't get aggressive with just the drops and the bio. He normally does get aggressive with these earlier, like, one base plays and then leading him into an expansion, which is something that GoOdy has been able to get used to quite well with that Banshee control, with those Hellion presences. And for now, Daisy, I mean, if he gets caught off guard by this, sometimes Daisy's control can fall apart a little bit.
Yeah. Now, Daisy's in kind of a weird position right now. What he's seen from his opponent is a barracks with no add-on and fast gas. This pretty much locks your opponent to what I would call cutesy aggression. He can go for Hellion Harass. Oh, this is cute. Speaking of cutesy, he can go for Hellion Harass. He can go for Banshee play. So what we see a lot of Protosses do is they rally this Nexus back up into the main and focus largely on just building Stalkers and walling themselves off. GoOdy's actually doing kind of like a TVZ style, where he's going Reactor Marine with a tank. This is just, looks like GoOdy's mech play is going to make a debut.
Yep. As said before, that siege tank play, it can occur. I'm still not a fan of it on Daybreak. It's something that I really don't think works too well with the architecture of anything else. There's not really too many spots to be able to siege up and be able to fully punish your opponent. We've seen a lot of tank play on this map, for example, and then one Hellion does dart in here, getting pretty good scout off. So not too bad there by Daisy. But once you establish the siege tanks and bunkers at the front of your opponent's natural, for example, if he wants to go for something like that, then there's so much surface area to be able to spread out your units as the defender and then push forwards that it doesn't work near enough as well as it does on some maps like Cloud Kingdom.
I do, though, think that GoOdy is one of the few players to really showcase the style, these mech openings, and be so effective. I would love to see an extra 2 factories and then just see him do a regular Hellion tank Marine push. If you are going early game mech, as GoOdy's kind of hinting towards, the Marines on the reactor barracks are an important component until you get around maybe 16, 20 Marines. Then you can sort of replace back and do some of your other mech units, but thus far GoOdy's just going ultra safe. In engineering bay, I mean, if you're gonna
I mean, this is GoOdy style. He's gonna sprinkle in the tanks, and then he's gonna eventually transition. What on earth? Oh, okay. My apologies. He is gonna go that full mech play. That is really quite bizarre. As normally he would just go for Marines, tanks, and then into a lot of, you know, the standard Marine Marauder medevac. But mixing up here and going for that full mech play, I am rather intrigued.
I will say, I do think that this engineering bay is quite a mistake. I mean, getting it up that early. What for? I mean, building an early turret, you scouted your opponent and saw that he was on one gas. It's physically impossible for him to be going DT and to have any more than one stalker. I mean, second Hellion could have easily gotten that information. So a little bit of over-safetiness coming in from GoOdy, but with 4 factories down right now, this indicates that he wants to attack with his mech. He is not interested in playing passively, so I'm quite excited to see this upcoming time and push.
Yeah, and I mean, with Daisy going for that double forge right now, I think that's more than safe enough. I mean, GoOdy is going to want to just ramp up this production and then hit some, as you said, specific timing, but it's not going to be too soon. So this double forge is going to be able to get a little bit of momentum here. He's already getting those immortals out. Has he already scouted the mech? Oh, he scouted everything. So he's just going to completely... The problem... Okay, so the problem with mech is I've seen people actually go for mech against the likes of GoOdy, for example. And if you actually prepare for mech with immortals, High Templars for feedback against, say, for example, potential Banshees, potential Ravens, potential Thors. If you then go for Zealot Charge as well, these 3 units, along with maybe 1 or 2 sprinkled in Colossus, demolish and crush and crucify and break so hard that mech force. It's unbelievable. So I'm really, really worried for GoOdy if Daisy just keeps going with that.
It looks like that round of 3 tanks is almost done. The one thing that we just see GoOdy do all the time is way over queuing at his factories. He's been a little better about it as of late, but I mean, we're already seeing some queuing there. That's okay in those spots when it's close to being completed, but it is just a recipe for disaster elsewise. And GoOdy now doing a nice mech push in the way that only GoOdy would.
Yeah, I like the 4-tank push. It can work very, very well. He's bringing some SCVs. He's going to set up those bunkers like we were talking about before at the start of this game here. But again, Daisy is going to have a lot of surface area to be able to deal with this. So Daisy is going to end up spreading out his units. He knows this is on the way. He's seen it with an observer. But that blue flame is still kicked in here. And Daisy needs to be really, really adamant about this control.
GoOdy sieging it all up. Spots his first prey. And this is just the nicest positioning by Daisy. Look at that.
Yeah.
GoOdy's trying to work his way up. It's got to be so careful. And now GoOdy's going to siege up on the high ground. Oh, gosh, accidentally blocking off the reinforcing units with that 1 tank. We'll have to unsiege one right away.
Yep. And look at that, nice little poke forwards with the 2 immortals, delaying the amount of bunkers that could actually go down. Picks off a Hellion, slightly misrallied there. But again, actually, this is getting a little bit scary. That's quite a lot of mech that he has here, sprinkled in with a few Marines. And once those 2 bunkers go up, if he allows them to, again, he needs to keep poking forwards, but he's just going to go for it. Guardian shields go up, and he focuses down some of those siege tanks that poke forwards with those 2 immortals down to the south. Really nicely done here. Charge out as well. Look at that exact decimation.
Oh my gosh,
on the back row.
Daisy roasts that push with complete and total ease. And with 1-1 finished, he'll be able to start 2-2. Bam. He can take a 3rd and 4th right now with complete calm. GoOdy now realizing that he's in a load of trouble. Instantly throws down the armory.
As I said, though, this is why nobody really goes for mech in this matchup anymore. You just you scout out, you get immortals, you get charge, and then eventually you get High Templar, and you just demolish it. There's nothing really the mech player can do other than try and transfer back into bio, but you've committed so much to the mech play. And look at this, Daisy just ramping it up, just punishing everything that GoOdy has done, even with these siege tanks dishing out so much DPS. The Zealots coming in staggered formation, able to sit on top of this production, and GG.
What a straightforward game from Daisy. It's just like you said. I mean, identified that there was a big push coming, and then punished it violently. I mean, like, it is a big credit to Daisy that he hit right when the 6 tanks were there,
yep,
and the reinforcing 3 tanks were en route. Many more Hellions were also en route. If he'd waited a little longer, he could have had quite a difficulty, obviously, with the bunkers cropping up, but more importantly, with the tank count being a bit high. You see GoOdy there, a little bit bothered, I guess I'd say, by that initial game, feeling a little bit of frustration. But again, he's been doing almost all Marine Marauder lately. So he's going to go back to what is now his standard.
He pushed, Daisy pushed forward, as you said, at the perfect time there. Not only was it the fact that those reinforcements were coming along like you mentioned, but also the slight unsiege there of 2 siege tanks to be able to push forwards, whilst the Immortals then came in to focus fire them down on that south position very, very quickly. And then there weren't too many bunkers to be able to zone out those Zealots, and thus they were able to close the gap with those extra siege tanks up to that northern position. So again, Daisy with so much potential to be able to set up a fantastic concave along that very big area, like we stated earlier, on Daybreak there. again, I'm not a fan of it on that map. I think it would work much better on Cloud Kingdom now that we are actually loading up onto it. But GoOdy has to feel very, very apprehensive about doing that again after it got shut down so hard.
I think that one thing that GoOdy can do as an adjustment is try to be more aggressive early on. Trying to do something like a double Hellion harassment.
Yes.
Just force your opponent to make some extra Stalkers. The worst unit that you want to be making against meching play in the early game. I mean, any amount of pressure would be good. Could even do something like, again, not build that engineering bay, get in very early 2 extra factories, and just do a straight 1 tech lab factory push with some Hellion reinforcement. Anything would have been stronger than waiting for that time.
It would have been indeed. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump on to game number 2. Loading up onto Cloud Kingdom here. Game is loaded and good to go here for the EPS Final Cup number 6 for the Summer 2012 season. Let's jump right into the game, guys. As Spawn